All right, good morning, everyone. Happy LSW 20. This is a first for, I think, all of us to live stream a startup week, and I am so excited to be joined this morning to kick it all off with Beth Smith. I'm Morgan, for the record, Morgan Smith. We are, to the best of my knowledge, not related. I'm the grand poobah of LSW 20, and you'll see me throughout this week hosting these sessions and introducing our speakers. So I really don't have much of an introduction for Beth. Beth will be joining us every morning this week for a brief, somewhat compressed 30-minute session around mindfulness and what we were calling mindful mornings. She is a certified teacher and instructor of mindful awareness practices and meditation. She studied with some of the greats, which I'm sure she'll talk about. So I'm going to jump off the stream and I'll turn it over to you, Beth. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Morgan. Thanks so much. It's such an honor to be kicking off Longmont Startup Week 2020. And, just right away, I want us to just notice what it's like to be in this virtual environment. It's my first time teaching in a virtual environment, so I've had a lot of fodder for my own practice. So what we'll be doing each morning is sort of arriving with each other, and I can't see any of you, so I'm sort of talking to myself, and it feels a little awkward and strange in that way. But what I'd like for you to do is just notice that we're transitioning from whatever your morning was like. Most of us have quite active mornings. Some of you may have quiet and less active mornings. But as we start to transition here, and you'll hear me use this word quite a bit this morning, a transition moment, let's just take a moment to arrive together. So if you would just, you can close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. And you don't need to close your eyes if that's not comfortable. But if you'd like, you can drop your gaze a bit to limit the amount of visual cues you have as distractions. And just take a moment to come into a comfortable posture. And whatever that might mean for you to come into a comfortable posture. Many of us would be sitting. Some standing, you might be lying down, but just notice as you send a signal to your body that it can take a comfortable posture. You can sort of move around in your chair and find what that feels like. And so you want to have an upright posture so that you stay alert, but you also want to have a bit of ease, so a bit of relaxation. And from here, just find your body breathing. So over the years, one of the things in my practice that has been so helpful is to just experience the body breathing. Being reminded over and over again that your body actually knows exactly what to do to breathe. It's very reliable. And then I'd just like for you to take a moment to, as you've shifted into perhaps a different state, just ask yourself this question: how am I right now? And as your mind sort of picks up that question and begins to explore it, see if you can just answer the question that's true to this moment. You may feel a little uncomfortable, or you may feel a sense of anxiety or distraction. All of that's just fine. Really what we want to do is just take a moment to notice, how am I right now? You may be experiencing some sense of ease or calm. Whatever it is, see if you can just capture one word that describes that best. How are you right now? And as you're ready, you can begin to drop that quick mindful awareness practice. And I often like to keep my gaze down for a second as I begin to take in all the visual cues that we experience on a more regular basis. So if you'd like to, I'd love to see you chat. Just drop into the chat, into the live comments, what your word was. How are you this morning? How would you describe how you are? I know for myself, I feel even in that quick moment of asking myself how I am, it moved around quite a bit, and that's often the experience that we can have of not just one thing, but of many things. So we'll transition here from a practice moment to I'm going to talk just a little bit, and then we'll also practice again here in a bit. But I'd like for you to notice these transition moments. So transitioning to listening to me talk a bit. So we wanted to just spend a moment talking about mindful awareness. The word mindful has really gained in popularity in the last 10 years, 5 years, even the last year. What I'm noticing is that mindfulness is really becoming something that people recognize more. And the classic definition of mindfulness is really the sense of paying attention or a sense of focus. But the time we're spending together really has as much to do with that mindful piece around the focus, but we're paying attention in a very specific and particular way, and the way we're doing that is with a sense of care. So we can be mindful and still be quite aggressive to ourselves and not be kind. So the intent here is that we are learning to quiet our mind, so that the thoughts that we have that can, kind of take over our experience. One of the things we're working with is putting space in between those thoughts, not trying to get rid of them, because certainly the mind is what the mind is. It's good at thinking. So we're just learning to work with its ability to think and create some pauses in space. And we're doing this in a way that is kind. And the reason we're doing that is because really we want to open our hearts. We want to have a full experience of being alive and in this body, in this human existence, so that we're not just having a shoulder up experience, right, where we're thinking all the time, but we're actually learning how to think, and also learning how to be in our bodies, which is extremely important in the practice. And then we're also learning how to be with emotion. So the mindful awareness practice that we are using is about working with our minds, understanding more about how the mind thinks, how to put pauses and space in between, how to connect with our bodies, which is a great way for the mind to pay attention to something that is different than thinking, and then also how to work with our emotions. So in that way, we are learning how to stay with what's happening instead of always sort of leaving the experience and trying to think our way out of things. In the session descriptions, I talk about the acronym RAIN, and it comes from Tara's book, Radical Compassion, which is her newest book. And she goes into great detail in this new book around this acronym, which I'll talk about more in a second. In this book and in her first book, Radical Acceptance, she talks about living in a trance, how we're all living in some sort of trance that takes us out of the actual relationship to be in direct experience with what's happening. For me, the word trance kind of, I don't know, it triggers me in a certain way. So I tend to use that, what Tara is teaching, as more, we live in a habituated way, right? We live in this way that we just kind of, we get up in the morning, and then we go through our day, and then we stop. So this portion of our life tends to be something that's habituated. And we have all these rituals and habits, and certainly COVID has upset all of those habits and has created lots of challenges for many. And And in some ways, people have found some solace, and even in isolation, people have experienced that as not a negative thing. So this acronym RAIN stands for recognize, allow, investigate or inquiry, and nourish. And this is what makes up the acronym. Now, recognize and allow are really connected to the mindful practice around learning to pay attention. And then investigate or inquiry and nourish are really connected to this idea of compassion. So it's the way that the acronym is structured so that we are learning to pay more attention, and then we're also bringing a sense of compassion to that. So that all sounds great. Let me give you an example really quickly of how I've used RAIN in this COVID period of time, and certainly also in this racism crisis. Brings up a lot sense of safety and health around COVID, and for many, safety and health and confusion around the racism crisis. So the reason I chose to start with this question around how are you is directly related to my experience during COVID, and even today as it continues. So as people had been asking me, how are you, Beth? Or people ask me, right, how are things at work, right? How are things at Sticker Giant? And I started finding myself irritated by that question. So I recognized, okay, this question is really giving me a reaction. And then I started to allow that to sort of hang out a bit, like, well, what is going on with me in this question? People are asking me how I am. And these are people that I love and care about. And why am I, struggling with this question? And what I really discovered in allowing it was that I could actually go into this compassionate response of inquiry around, oh, right, I don't really know how I am. Or I'm a way that I don't really want to share, like I'm upset or I'm confused, or it's not the same pleasantries, right, that I exchange with people. Oh, I'm good, things are busy, a little bit tired. I have Southern roots, so often answering that question, right, is it's habituated, right? Someone asks you, and you exchange a pleasantry, and then you ask them how they are, and then they sort of exchange a pleasantry. But too often we're not responding in an honest way, like something that's really true to what's happening. So then in this idea of nourish, I really started to respond to the question of how are you with how I actually am, and then have that experience of seeing how that shifts people's response. Early when I was exploring this, I was saying, wow, I'm tired, right? And people would often respond, yeah, me too. So it's just a quick idea of how working with recognize, allow, investigate, or inquiry, and nourish can really help you in an everyday situation. So what I'd like to do is guide us back once again to another transition moment. So we're going to shift from me telling you about my story about how are you and some information about mindful awareness and what that might mean to another practice. So just notice already, like as I say, we're going to take a moment to practice what happens for you. Does your mind start to, say, oh, okay, Beth's going to want me to sit up straight or something like that? And just notice that. Just a transition moment. And like before, just allowing your experience to connect with your body. If you're sitting in a chair, just noticing what it's like to feel the sensation of sitting in a chair. Notice what it's like to be held by a chair. You don't need to make any effort to be held by the chair. It does it for you. And if you're standing, you can feel the sturdiness of your feet and their ability to hold you upright. And then I'd like you again to come back to this question that I asked you earlier. How are you right now? In this moment. Are you the same or different than when you made the inquiry earlier? And are you the same or are you different when I asked you the first time? How are you right now? Allow yourself to notice your body breathing, allowing the body to breathe in its own natural way, not manipulating or doing anything with the breath. And then one last time. How are you right now? And as you're ready, you can begin to drop that practice and transition again, allowing your eyes to open and come back into the full experience with your eyes open. So as we sort of come to conclusion for today, I'd love to know if anyone wants to share in the chat how you were, if you were the same or different, and what was the word you used when you responded to the question, how are you right now, in the practice that we just did. And then what I'd like to do is just give you two things for today until perhaps you join us again tomorrow and the coming days. I'd like you to ask yourself this question, how am I right now, a number of times throughout the day. And you might have really great intentions to do that and leave this time together and then go into your life and forget, because that's part of our mindful practice is really learning to remember, right? It's part of our human existence is we forget all kinds of things, but we actually often forget to follow through on intentions that we make. So one way to help you remember around transitions, one way to help you remember is around using transition moments to prompt remembering to practice. So, I describe, we get up, and then we go through our day, and then we go to bed. There's so many transitions in these moments when you reach out to open a door, touch a doorknob, when you get up from your desk to go make lunch, that's a transition. When you open a car door and sit into your car, another transition. So think, if you will, about transition moments, and think about ones that you find that are pleasant, that you enjoy, like drinking coffee or going for a walk. And these ones that you experience as pleasant are great ones to tie this question to. How am I right now? What's going on for me? How am I right now? And see if you can answer the question with a lot of simplicity. So what you'll notice is your mind will start to embellish the answer, right? You'll say, oh, I feel calm. And then the mind gets very active. And I feel calm because of this. And and that, and oh, I don't feel calm anymore. And the mind will start to fill up the space again. So keep coming back to your body, coming back to just noticing the body breathing. And then make that inquiry again. How am I right now? So the reality is we are constantly moving in what's going on for us. But we've trained ourselves to believe, I'm okay, pretty good. How about you? So it will take some time for your mind to reorient to this question and really allow you to answer it in its fullness and in its truthfulness. And in doing so, you begin to sort of cut through some of those layers of trance or habituation in the way we go through our day. And we start to really be kind to ourselves. So often when I ask myself an inquiry question, I will place my hand on my heart, and it really helps my body settle a bit. So you can use that as well. So thank you so much for joining this first morning. What we'll do in the next mornings is use one of the acronym letters. Tomorrow will be recognize and so on. Allow, inquiry, and nourish will end on Friday. So perfect to end with Friday and a nourish topic. So I hope you're able to join us for another one. And I hope that you found something to carry with you today that will help you consider and think about mindful awareness, the ability that we all have to know what's going on and to pay attention and to do that in a kind and loving way. So thank you so much. And I hope to see you again on another live stream this week. Hope you have a great day. Be well, friends.